Yo, what's poppin', man? So I wanted to start this thing, right, where I add a couple filler videos in here and there. Now the videos are gonna slow down, unfortunately. God willing, it doesn't, but unfortunately, it's probably going to slow down. So in this video, I read a question which said that my previous 50-minute video, which is about the storyline, was, while I answered the question, it was a bit too long. Can you make a video that simplifies it all up? Okay, so this is gonna be the video. Whatever I cover that seems to be more than 30 minutes long, I'm going to consider too long for even my own attention span. And no, that I don't take any offense to that whatsoever. I understand it. Okay, so what I'm going to do from now on, I'm going to produce a couple of shorter videos. They're still going to be long. They're still going to be at least 10 minutes at the very least. But they're going to be shorter and they're going to be more to the point, and it's not going to be about too many, oh, this could happen, that also could happen. No, it's just going to be the title of the video. That's it. So the title of today's video is going to be Storyline Simplified. How do you understand the storyline? Just the rules, point blank, period. That's it. Okay, so we're not going to get into too many like, oh, we can do this with it as well, we can do that, oh, but then if this happens we can counter it using that. We're not going to get into all of that. We're going to save that for the main chunk of the proper videos. Okay, so what is storyline? And okay, let me give you some examples of it, etc. Right? So okay, storyline is simply the movement of price between one time frame and another. So we have one time frame, so let's assume that this is the weekly. We will use the weekly for example. Now before we actually start with this, we want to understand what are your higher time frames. They are the monthly, weekly, and daily. So when we talk about storyline, you need to understand that storyline is only dealing with these three time frames. So even if you're an intraday trader or a swing trader or even a position trader, does not matter. You must understand, or at least write down and be aware of the storyline on each of these higher time frames: monthly, weekly, daily. Sometimes sometimes you won't be able to view a clear storyline on all three of these time frames. That doesn't matter. Go with what you have. So for example, if you can't get the storyline on the monthly very clearly, no problem. Get one time frame lower, which is the weekly, right? Weekly, and then try and play it based off of that. And just be aware of the monthly, because maybe a monthly storyline could start in the future and you want to be aware of that. Most of your losses will come from not being aware of the storyline. Okay, and of course, incorrect entries, which we'll get into in future videos. All right, so we understand the higher time frames and we understand what time frames we're going to be dealing with storylines for. So now let's come into the storyline rules. So how do you read a storyline, etc. So all you need to understand is that the storyline is the movement of price between one time frame and the next, and the way we initiate, the way we can say that to pay attention to something is when we have, so now we're dealing with the weekly, right? Is when we have a weekly support, for example. Price hits into it, boom, and then all we're doing here is we're waiting for a reaction. Okay, so we're waiting for a reaction. That's the first step. Okay, and this reaction is going to be in the form of a rejection. Okay, so we're going to wait for a rejection. Now, something to make very, very clear. The rejection obviously has to be on the time frame of the support that you're looking at. So let me give you an example. If you see that there is a weekly support, it doesn't matter if it's a weekly traditional support or if it's a weekly open close, it does not matter. There is a weekly support because storylines can start from both the weekly open close. So open close would be something like this, and I've showed you guys this in previous videos. Open close could mean something like this. See, open close over here, it could mean like this. Open close could mean like this. Whatever, it can start from there. Storylines can start from there, or they can start from traditional SNR. Okay, in this case, this one's already unfresh because it's been tapped. No worries. That's still an SNR, sell by, right? So again, storylines can start from open close candles like this, hidden bases, kissing candles, whatever you call it, and they can also start from traditional SNR. Now, can a storyline start from a piece of SNR that has already been tested, so unfresh? Yes, it can, but it's not something that is valid in my opinion, and it's not something that you should follow as a rule. We're looking for rules here. We're looking for things to follow, which means that we cannot let any and every excuse come in the way, any and every subjective view or exception come in the way. Remember, exceptions do not disprove rules. There are exceptions to everything in life, but they do not disprove rules. Okay, the rule is that we must have ourselves a fresh zone. So for example, sell buy gets created here, right? And then this is the first week, creates a sell, second week creates the buy. That's a traditional support. And then in the third week, very conveniently and very quickly, actually, sometimes it doesn't take that quick. Sometimes it takes longer, right, to come back. Okay, and price eventually just stations out and boom, comes back in here. And so this is a weekly zone. So what are we going to be looking for? We're going to be looking for a weekly rejection. So just like this, we're on the weekly time frame, we have a weekly support, we must have a weekly rejection. What is a rejection? A rejection is when the candle comes in, taps into that level and closes above it, the body close. So this is the body, this is the wick. The wick hits, the body is here, it closes above it. That's a rejection. Does it matter how long the wick is? No, it doesn't. Does it matter if the wick, for example, wicks through it like that and then still leaves the wick behind? No, it does not matter whatsoever. Okay, let me see if I can find an example for you guys. There aren't too many, but there are enough examples of when price wicks through. So for example, no, all of these are just intact. I think you can maybe find them on lower time frames perhaps. Again, I'm not trying to waste you guys' time too much, but I think you kind of understand what I'm trying to say with this. Maybe there we go. This is one example, a quick example. So you can see over here we have ourselves the resistance, right? Buy, sell candle creates a traditional resistance. Okay, even nicer that there's a breakout here. Sell, buy is a support, break, become resistance. We have ourselves a resistance at the top. See how this wick exceeds the top wick here. See, it exceeds the top. Does not matter. Does the body close below this? Yes, it does. So that means it's a rejection, right? And then within this wick, you may find something on the H4. The reason why we're looking at the H4 is because we're dealing with the daily, right? So again, if you haven't watched my proper storyline video, go ahead and check that out. So yes, first step is the reaction, and the reaction we want to look for is a rejection. The second step is that we want to go one time frame below. Okay, drop one time frame and look for H4 breakout, or drop one time frame and look for a breakout. Okay, we're dealing with the weekly, so we're dealing with daily. But if we're dealing with the daily, we're dealing with the H4. If we're dealing with the monthly, we're dealing with the weekly. One time frame below. So first thing we want to look for, okay, is a reaction. So let me just give you an example right now. Okay, first thing is the reaction. So I don't know, let's say this one. Okay, what is this? This is an open close flip, right? We have ourselves, this is a resistance, and then once this resistance gets broken, it becomes a support. So we want to see. First thing is the reaction. Do we have a rejection? Yes, we do. We absolutely have a rejection in this candle. Okay, so that means we need to wait for this candle to close, and then we're going to attack on the next candle. So this is the next week that starts. Now in this next week that starts, we're going to observe the PA, they call it, the price action in this previous week's candle, or just in the candle that rejected the SNR zone. Okay, so let's go ahead and check that out. Now, which time frame are we going to be observing that PA on? Very important. We're not going to drop to the H4. This is on the weekly. We're not going to drop to the H4. We're not going to obviously go to the monthly. That doesn't even make logical sense. We're not going to go to the H1. We're going to drop one time frame and look for a breakout. What's one time frame below weekly? Daily. Hit the daily.